Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Mujer de Éxito Unbounded, Woman of Success Without Limits. I am your host, Marti Angel, your host, Marti Angel. And it is Wednesday again. You guys all know that every Wednesday I come here and you're watching me on the Coach Marti Angel YouTube channel. Gracias por estar aquí. Remember, as you're listening to this podcast, to hit that bell and subscribe so that you never miss something amazing, whether it's tips to grow your business, tips and tricks in order to get into business, or to listen to the stories raw and real of the guests that have gone before you, and you can listen to what they have done and then listen to their tips and tricks. So today, I just want to share today on the Mujer de Éxito Unbounded, I have an amazing guest. Now, this woman is an amazing woman. Okay. She is, I call her the freeway flyer. She has, a business in El Centro. If you know, we're here in California, and then she comes over to San Diego and she's back and forth. And the other thing is, not only that, but she's in in a field that is so amazing. And, she's a graduate from UCSD, and she's just got an amazing story. So I'm just going to let her tell it instead of me telling it. Welcome, everybody, to my podcast guest today, Tammy Summers. Thank you, Tammy, for being here. I'm so happy to have you. How are you?
Oh, I am doing well. Thank you so much, Marty, for having me on your podcast.
You are so welcome. You're like the epitome of what I have to have on my podcast, right? But
that's good to hear.
Yeah. And so you are in the biotech industry. Now,
yes.
Tell me a little bit about how you got in it. And what was it back here? For me, it was always business. But what was it back here in the back of your mind that made you say, biotech, this is what I want to do?
Initially, I didn't even know what it was. Because growing up in the Imperial Valley, it's not anything you hear of. It's mostly when you go into science, it's being a doctor. And that's exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a gynecologist obstetrician.
Uh-huh.
I attended Imperial Valley College after graduating from Central Union High School in El Centro. And then I transferred to UC San Diego. That was the only college I ever wanted to go to because they're very strong in the science field. Yeah. So I transferred, went to UC San Diego, majored in biochemistry and cell biology. I don't know why I majored in that. It sounded like it was something complicated and I wanted the challenge. And I did take that challenge, and it was difficult for me to transition from semesters to quarters. Now, the quarter system in UCSD is very quick. You don't have 16 weeks or however many weeks for a semester. It has decreased to 10. So every week was a countdown. It was week 4, you are in midterms. Come to week 8, you might have second midterms or not at all. Week 10, finals. Then you move on to the next. It was very difficult for me to transition, being a transfer student, going from semesters to quarters. And so I was on academic probation for 2 quarters. With that, I am a first generation college student. First to ever go to university, move away. I'm the oldest of 4. So I felt I had to pave the way for the rest of my siblings. This is where reality hit when I spoke with the dean and I asked, what can I do? One more academic probation, I'm kicked out of school, and I came too far to have my dreams go away. And what initially he had said, you come from the Imperial Valley, you went to Imperial Valley College. This is as he's looking at my transcripts. I remember one thing he said was, where you come from, most people don't do well. So, and I thought, this is all you have to tell me? This is not good. So I had to muster up some courage to do all that I can to find ways to transition to now I was more in survival mode. It was, I'm graduating. Long story short, I did graduate from UC San Diego. I changed a major from biochemistry to cell biology to microbiology. Met a fabulous microbiology professor, Dr. Willie Brown, who later became my mentor. And then I transitioned back to biochemistry and cell biology. I worked this whole time. I was also in college. So I was also a working student. I stumbled my way into biotech when I wanted a job to just kind of get my foot in the door in a laboratory, but I still had some aspirations to go into medical school. That's when I started thinking, I'm around all of these other scientists, and I kind of like indirectly working in a medical field without being a doctor. And again, another reality hit when one of my close friends, she's now an obstetrician gynecologist, she was going through the process of going into medical school. And unfortunately, I did not have the grades to even move forward into medical school, which is okay. It was a transition, but then that's when I started enjoying being in the world of biotech, working with different infectious diseases, but with cancer, blood cancers, prostate cancer. There's a bunch of different ones that I've worked with over the years, and also working with different medical devices that were manufactured either in San Diego, Birmingham, England. What's the other location? Lyon, France.
Oh, wow.
And so I got to enjoy working at 6 different biotech companies within my career and moving up the ladder, starting with research and development, understanding how implementing or designing products are for infectious diseases or other point of care testing, then moving into operations, understanding the meat of the company. And another transition, I also have a master's in business. And at that time, when I moved into operations, that's when I had received my master's in business from the University of Phoenix, because I felt it was more lucrative for me to have a science background and a business background in biotech, because that's what biotech is, a combination of science and business. After I was in operations with product support investigations, investigating products that would come back from the field, from other customers, business to business customers, I would have to investigate what the root cause is and then let the manufacturing department know this is what we have to improve on our product. Then I moved into voice of the customer, working in technical support, or I was working with customers over the phone or by email, sometimes going to a customer site. For those of you who are unfamiliar with what that customer means, it's not a direct-to-consumer customer, meaning, Marty, I cannot sell a product directly to you. It goes to hospitals, clinics, anywhere where there is medical devices that are used in those different facilities. So I was speaking with med techs, physicians, and
Right.
all of those individuals who also understand science and would be able to interpret some of those results if there were issues. So that's where I came into technical support and really loved working with customers. And then I moved up to management and being a director.
Oh, amazing, amazing. And you know what? This podcast, Mujer de Éxito Unbounded, basically means woman of success without limits. Now, my friend, you just proved that you are a woman without limits. And I hear a little bit about, I hear a little bit of your story that coincides with mine, very much so. And as long as we're sharing stories, which I think is so much fun, this is about you. But I remember there was an incident, and one of my teachers said to me, I remember going like, "Hey, you corrected my paper. Can you tell me what's wrong?" And she just looked at me and couldn't tell me what was wrong. And I looked at her, and I remember feeling, because I am very intuitive, and I can feel when there's something wrong. I looked at her in the face and I said, "Oh my God, you never even corrected my paper." And you know what she answered? And it's like kind of like your dean person. She answered me and she said, "Well, since English wasn't your first language, I figured you didn't know how to write."
Mm.
And I went straight from high school straight into the university. And then she said, and then I went to the dean to turn her in. I was crying and went to the dean and I said, this is not fair. She hasn't even graded me. She gave me a big fat D and she didn't even grade it. And I went to the dean and he said, well, it's really hard for you people who come in under EOP. Right. And I looked at him and I said, I didn't come in under EOP. My grades were too high and I didn't come in under EOP. I came in under regular admission. So don't look at me like I'm a diversity, diversity. I remember I told him, don't look at me like I'm a charity case, because I came in the right way, just like everybody else. My grades were too good. I didn't qualify for EOP. I was overqualified, so I had to come in the regular way. Now, I said, she needs to grade my paper, and and you need to make sure that you don't treat me like this. And he just looked at me and goes, well, most people like you don't make it. And I said, what is most people like me?
Yeah.
And I forget what he said after that because I stopped listening. I was just like, here's my paper,
Like
give it back. I want to know what I did wrong. So she went back and she graded it. Oh, it was an A-. And it was like, and back then I had no idea. I was in the business department. I was not going to go, I remember saying to everybody, no, I'm not going to go into education. If you're in education, you're stupid because you don't get paid enough. You have to put up with crap and you have to do whatever they say, when they say, what they say. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I ended up with my master's degree in, one of them in educational administration, and then it was like, they need you. The kids need to see people like you up in the upper echelons and this and that. And then, and then I was in the STEM program because I taught technology and I taught algebra, right? So it was really amazing. But how could people do that? And when I became an educator, it was like, I'll never, ever do that to any of my kids. I will never, ever look at them and say, people like you, people like you,
people like you, or where you come from, or whatever. That in itself, it is so hurtful. But I'm thankful that you and I, Marty, we didn't give up. We still continued on.
Yes. It was like, don't tell her she can't. My mom used to say, don't tell her she can't do something because then she'll do it. Right. And it was like, that sounds like what you did. But let me let me ask you this. Now, you also are a mom. Is that correct?
I am. I have a 23-year-old. She also graduated from UC San Diego with a bachelor's degree of political science, public law.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, she finished her schooling in 3.5 years.
Wow. And let me just ask you this. As I'm looking at your bio, it says that that you were a single parent. Tell me, how did that fit in with everything that because you sound like you're a go-getter, and it's like, how did that fit in? Were you like carrying her everywhere,
Oh, thank you. It fit in after I graduated from UC San Diego.
Okay.
And I had been with my daughter's dad for 5 years at this time. And I was in a car accident that could have lost my life.
Oh, wow.
And I started feeling, if I would have lost my life, I wouldn't have anything to leave behind, like a child.
Mm.
But then also at 23 years old, I had fibroidal cysts. I wasn't thinking of having a child at that time, but the doctor had told me, you may not be able to have children. So this is another time when someone tells you what you don't, when they say, no, you probably can't. Well, I ended up having my daughter. She was, after graduating college, ended up getting pregnant and having my daughter, Trinity. And things didn't work out between my daughter's dad and I. But being a single parent for a majority of her life, it was very difficult, like most single moms would say when you're by yourself. And I was living in San Diego. Majority of my family all live in El Centro. It was me and my daughter living in San Diego.
Wow.
So it took a village of friends who I met over the years to really help raise my daughter along with me. I went back to get my master's when she was 4 years old. And this is the person I always remember who prompted me to go back to school. It was my daughter's preschool teacher, Miss Thelma, who had encouraged me to go back to get my master's while Trinity, it's my daughter's name, is younger. She was younger at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Because she would be able to see me going to school. While my daughter was going to start kindergarten the next year, I would already be in my core classes that second year while I'm working on my master's degree. So I sacrificed sleeping because I was still working. I worked in the day. I'd take care of my daughter. Then I would have someone help me. I think my younger sister was living with me at that time, and she would help with my sister, my daughter.
Right.
We look like sisters, but yeah, it's actually my daughter. But that is what really prompted me to go back to school. And now that I think about it, my daughter had really been very academic and successful in her academics because she had always seen me study, and I was always able to help her out when I could. But I did at times help her with her confidence in math, because she did have a teacher kind of tell her the same thing about, well, we are not very good with math because of what you might be. But because I had that experience, I told my daughter, no, we're going to build up your confidence. No one's going to tell you what you can or can't do. So we were able to build up her confidence when she was in 6th grade with her math, and she excelled in math. And now she does very well with standing up for herself, which is why I'm thankful she's wanting to go into law, because she's very good at debating using facts to prove her point.
Wow. That's amazing. That's and that's a story, your personal, as we call your personal historia of resilience. And because one of the things that I know, first of all, as women, we are resilient. But secondly, when we are women of color, we are super resilient. We're like resiliency on steroids, because we not only have to fight with the fact that we're women, but we have to fight with the fact that, our white counterparts have no idea how much harder we have to work to get to the level where they are.
Exactly.
And not intellectual level, but societal level. And that's so different. Now, let me ask you this. So, you have had quite a few setbacks, and I'm reading right here because I'm seeing your story of resilience. And it says you survived losing your home in 2004, being demoted in 2012, laid off in 2013. And here you are, a mujerpreneur who has, survived and thrived. And now you have a business on top of what you do, right? You're an entrepreneur, you're a mujerpreneur, and you have founded something called the Leadership Learners.
Yes.
Girl, I just want to say, whoo, you know, um, so I can imagine because the story sounds very much like mine. I had the dates maybe change, but very much also, all of that. But I don't even want you to go through that because I don't want to give it power. But I just
Mhm.
want people to know that you have survived what many would say, oh, I'm giving up. Single parent, I'm giving up. I'm gonna wait until the child grows up. Nope, didn't give up. Right. And then, during the we called it the real estate boom
Oh
or the
yeah,
real estate
that real
down,
estate. Yeah.
yeah, explosion or whatever you want. Demolition sounds better, right? And at the Great Recession, we went through a recession, and being laid off a job, girl. I mean, I'm just saying, like, whoo, my hat is off to you. I will take it off, but I'm not taking off my hat.
No,
But
thank you. Thank you so much, Marty.
it is amazing, and you um, need to tell me, how did the learners, did the your
Uh,
leadership learners that you founded just last year, how did that come about? What was it that all of a sudden made you think, oh, I got to do this? And when you did it, you just did it. It was like, okay, you
I
just
did.
did it. All right, so tell me.
I just did it. So in May of last year, I was working for a biotech company that I really enjoyed working there because I enjoyed working with the team that I had in the US and also in the Philippines. And I also love the innovation of the company. Unfortunately, it was shut down by the FDA. First company I've ever worked for that was shut down. I was there till the end. And that's when I just had an epiphany where I was already learning a lot of leadership and development. I became a certified coach, trainer, speaker through John Maxwell. I was also
Mm,
becoming a DISC consultant. I'll go through that later. But I had used DISC for my team that I had always managed, and it helped so much with communication.
mm-hmm.
Come May, I worked with one of my cousins in the Imperial Valley. She owns 3 different businesses.
Mm,
She's the one who inspired me with her businesses that she runs, and along with other people who I know would run a business. And I felt, this is it. This is my time. Was I scared? Yeah. I didn't know what I was really doing. And I have a master's in business. So this is where I tell people you can have all the education in the world until you actually apply it.
yep.
So that's when I created my LLC, got the name Leadership Learners, started working on a logo. I used Fiverr to create a logo of something I wanted, and I was very happy with it. Then I needed to establish everything else to get a business. So what I do is I use a dry erase board, and I always use this for all of my work that I've always done. So that way I can always look at it and know this has to get done, check, this has to get done, and check and check. Now, I started in May. My goal was to get clients, at least one in September. I ended up with 3 in September.
Wow.
And then
Wow.
it started exponentially just growing with clients and then group clients in San Diego and also in the Imperial Valley. And the key to this, consistency and networking. Once I started joining the women in business events through the Small Business Development Center in the Imperial Valley and also in San Diego, that is what catapulted my training, meeting more people, how to get myself out there. And for those people who really need to get yourself out there, which is why Marty's great to have this podcast, you have to get yourself seen and known.
Hmm.
And Marty, that goes to how you and I met, getting
Yes.
yourself out there. So I'll go in that story and how we met. I was invited by Larissa Urias.
Yep.
sorry if I'm saying her name. Okay.
No, that's exactly how.
Doris.
Yeah.
Oh, great. I met her at a women in business event in August. It was the very first one that I attended. And then she saw me again at another event, the Imperial Valley Economic Development Corporation. And she remembered me from that event, and we sat next to each other. She invited me to the Accessity 30th anniversary. That was in November of last year. And I said, I'm going. Since she let me know 2 months ahead, there were so many other events that day. I said, no, I can't go. I'm not going, because Larissa had already invited me. Once I went to that event, I showed up, flower in my hair. But at that time, I had these very long, twisted braids, a long trench jacket. Just to let you know, Marty, everywhere I go, I always dress up. So no matter what the event is, I'm always going to dress up, even if I'm going to the grocery store. So I remember walking in with confidence, head held high, sitting near the front. As I'm talking with other people, that's remember, Marty, you showed up. And I remember you saying, I have to know who you are. And we started speaking, and I told you my story about the flower. And you were telling me the story about your hat, that's your brand. And we can go into the story with your hat, because that's how we started talking. And then we connected since then.
Oh, my hat, my hat, my hat. I'm just a hat lover. I've always been a hat lover. My mother was a hat lover. And, and it just, I just, like you, I love to dress up, and I love wearing hats. And I have always, I'm either, other women are like, oh, okay, I'll get some shoes to go with the dress. I'm like, okay, I need some shoes to go with my hat.
That's how I am with my flowers.
It's like, but it's become my brand, and it wasn't by. It was sort of like, so I have another master's degree like you, but so I was a yoga therapist. And one of the things, that I did there is I always wear a bandana around my head. And I used to walk around the college with my bandana around the head. And the kids would always look at me and go, oh, I want to take your class. You're the lady with the bandana. I hear good things. And then, so my bandana became my brand at the college and as a holistic practitioner, right? So everybody was expecting me to wear this bandana there. And then, I have the degree in, in educational administration, and my bachelor's degree was in marketing and management. And I was always wearing the hat, right? And then it was so funny, because one day I start to do my podcast, and the assistant I had at that time, she runs in, don't go live yet. Don't go live yet. And she's like, your hat. And I'm like going like, my hat? Yeah. And she's going, yeah, you always wear a hat. And I'm going like, oh yeah, I always wear a hat. So it was like, okay, that became my brand. So it was one of those, it wasn't like we thought about it. Okay. As they tell you, in marketing, and what is your brand? What are your colors? What is this? What is that? It just, sometimes brands just happen. You can't force it. They just happened. Right?
Exactly. They just happen. I had no idea wearing a flower in my hair was actually going to be something until, someone in marketing mentioned, that's your brand. Yeah. I didn't even know what that really was kind of at that time.
Right. Now, let me ask you this. Your leadership learners and what you do with them, and you say you use the DISC. I'm familiar with DISC. And you're going to be giving a link for people to take the freebie disc, or the introductory. So for those of you that are listening on the Coach Marti Angel YouTube channel, you're actually going to find the link in the description below. And if you're listening to me, wherever you listen to your favorite podcast shows, look for the show notes. It's in the show notes. Her link will be right there. But let me ask you, give me a little more detail into what happens when somebody hires you.
Yeah, exactly. So when someone hires me, there are different services that I provide. DISC is one. For those of you who don't know what that is, D, I, S, and C are all different types of behavior communication styles. So for example, D would be someone who's very direct to the point. They don't like much small talk. They're also very outgoing. I would be someone who's very influential. I'm a high I. Someone who is very talkative, really loves people, they're people oriented, and also might be that little shiny bright light. S's are those people who are also, S's are very steady. They're also people oriented. They're very loyal, good listeners, and they usually don't like things disrupted. So they're the harmonizers. And a little, if I haven't said it, they're a little more reserved. So not as outgoing as the D and the I. A C is someone who is more compliant. They are the rule followers. They are the fact finders, seekers. They're also reserved. You can be either one dominant letter, or you can have a secondary. I'm a secondary, I'm an I and a D, or you can be a tertiary, meaning that you have three of these letters and what that means. What's great about this is once you do the DISC assessment, and the one that I'm giving is for entrepreneurs, so that will be your DISC assessment. There are graphs involved. When we do the debrief, I help go through what that means in the graphs because I love data and I'm very data driven with my background. And then I'll just go through a debrief with you where we go through this report because there might be questions I will ask of you so that way we can move forward with next steps. So that is one. There's also a sales profile DISC, or another one that is just an individual, like where is it that you stand within your communication behavior. Also, your strengths. The other is everyone communicates, few connect. That is a mastermind training for people who are interested in wanting to know more than just communicating. Because Marty, you and I know that there are people who can talk and communicate, but are you really connecting with them? That's where in this master class or master training that I provide is how you can connect by finding those ground points. But again, you have to really make it where you want to try to connect with others. And if there are some who don't, then we'll go to a different part of the menu, which is those are interested who are working on their management skills. This is where I focus in San Diego, and it's also been a small staple here in the Imperial Valley, is that my experience working once in the laboratory in biotech, you learn everything you can about science. But once it comes to managing people, that's a whole different ball game.
Oh, yeah.
And so there's many people that are in that industry who don't do well as people managers because they were once very good at being an individual contributor, that now you need to be able to have the tools set up to be an effective manager, director, or whatever that may be. So I've set up something called Management 101 to be able to help that individual or group of individuals when I work with business to business, how to get out of that laboratory mindset, but now focus on your people, how to create career development plans, how to have effective one-on-ones. When you're leading meetings, don't just have them where they're boring and are not productive. No one wants to show up to a meeting where you just sit there and it's not productive and you just wasted a half an hour or an hour of someone's time. I'm one of those people who does not like their time wasted. So that is where I've created this efficiency for having effective meetings. Also, presentation skills. I'd been in Toastmasters International for 13 years. For those of you who don't know what that is, it is a platform, almost a club, where you can go and practice on your public communication skills, nonverbal skills. And there are projects set up depending on which pathway that you want to take. And you also are being critiqued. You'll have a speech evaluator. You also learn table topics, how to speak on the fly. And you're timed that we are not rambling. You actually get to your point. So that's
Right.
where I help many people who have those problems not being able to communicate effectively, not being able to use pauses, which I have just did so that we could process the information. Most people, when they do speak in public, they get so nervous, they'll speak really fast, and then you can even understand what they're saying, and no one can process what they're even saying because they're speaking too fast. Or they use a lot of ahs, so, filler words. And that's where I come in with leadership learners or those individuals that want to improve on their public speaking. Because Marty, that's one of the other things as business owners is that we also have a vocal image. Not only is it visual, but how do we represent ourselves? Do we come off as confident? Do we come off as meek? And that's where I'm helping the women in business group once a month, not every Friday, once at the end. Now I'm having trouble speaking. At the end of every month, the last Friday of the month, that is where I will get to be able to help women in business gain the confidence to be able to speak about their businesses, being able to create a safe space for them to get used to speaking and create their vocal image.
Right, right. And you know, what you say is so important. Now, I've done the disc, but it was a long time ago, and I did it for my network marketing career. But we did, being a principal, I had to be able to be the leader that they needed, but at the same time be the follower that they needed. So I had to follow with them and I had to lead them, right? And so we had, back in the day, it was different personality tests and things like that. But that's, what you just described it's even in the education world, because even as teachers, that's one thing that in the teacher training program, I mean, that's where I would love to, that was like, I missed my calling, because I would love to train more teachers to be more effective in the classroom. Luckily, I was very effective as a teacher, and effective as well as a assistant principal, and effective as well as a principal. I was able to take a school out of program improvement, but I think that came because of the fact that I was able to really perform. And when I say perform, I was I was a professional dancer, and the show must go on, right? And so that's how I took everything in life. And my first business, because I've been an entrepreneur since I was 6. I was always a straddler, right? And so I've been an entrepreneur since I was 6, and that's what made it. The show must go on. The show must go on. And even when I was in the like you said, in the meetings, I was always like, I'm not going to sit here and talk at you. We are going to make this collaborative. We're going to make this enjoyable, and we're going to make this effective, because those two E's are tough to find, very tough to find. There's a lot of principals that I was, they were my, coworkers, and they had other schools and things like that. But it was really important for me to make sure that I was effective, entertaining, that I gave them something to be excited for and something to be able to execute. So it was all, all these E's, all my E's were like, today we're going to make sure that we cover all these E's, and you're going to point out where, what is it that we're focusing on now? And am I falling short on any one of these E's as I send it to you? So that disc thing that you have is extremely important. I'm excited to take it. And I hope my listeners, I encourage you to take it as well, because it's so important. It's so important as a leader. Now, let me ask you this.
It is.
As a leadership learner, we all have a segment of the population, or as they say, our, ideal client. Is yours the biotech industry?
In San Diego, it has been the biotech industry because that's where biotech is.
Okay.
It's there. And also that's a lot of my background. In the Imperial Valley, it has been large groups, meaning that I'm working with a club right now that had started with 17 members and has grown to 64.
Wow.
And I was approached with, we have growing pains. This is good, but we really want to be able to work on some of these growing pains now before it's too late. And I really like this group. I just joined. I want to give them a plug out. They're the Seroptimist El Centro. I had not ever heard of Seroptimists until recently. And these women are amazing with what they're doing. And I'm just very thankful that they came to me. I also worked with a real estate group in the Imperial Valley called EXP Realty. The person who approached me, her name is Gisela Sanchez. And she had me work with her team, and we did a DISC assessment. I did a debrief with everyone, and we also did the training. What was great about that is they were able to learn from each other what their different communication styles were. We did some role playing. And the other thing was Gisela had realized I have almost one of each person. I have a D, which is her. I have an I have an S, and I have a C. And this person who was an S, she was new to the team. And she was thankful that she was able to bring on someone who is an S, who is that glue, who is the team player, and bring them on. And that's when she realized her husband is the C, that one who is very analytical, more reserved. But you need to have one of all four. This is where I also come in, which is where I'm helping the Seroptimist Club, is they want to know how many D's, I's, S, and C's do we have, and how can we use them effectively so that way we don't have too many that are top heavy, too many D's, not many C's, S's, and I's. So that way they can be able to work with what they have. And I bring this up because that's exactly what I did when I worked with larger teams. I used DISC right away because I wanted to know, how can I use my team? But most importantly, how can the team understand each other? So I had less conflicts because they now understood, oh, a D and an S, yeah, they usually collide. But now when they understand each other, it bridges that gap. The same with me and being an I and a C. Same with that thing. They're opposite. So when you start understanding someone who is opposite of you, instead of collision, you now build bridges. And that's one of the things I really love about what I'm doing with leadership learners, for those who either understand DISC or don't, or maybe it's time to revisit doing a DISC assessment because it can change over time. Behaviors change depending on the environment and situation.
Yeah, I agree with that. So I actually did DISC every year that I was a principal with my teachers, because I wanted to see what I had, and it was just like you said. So so DISC that you do in your leadership learners is you actually can work with any industry, it sounds like, to me, correct?
I can work with any industry.
Okay.
Correct.
That's amazing. And you get clients based on networking events, yes? And maybe
networking events, and lately it's been word of mouth.
Word of mouth. Well,
that's where I feel is the best advertisement, has been word of mouth.
Right. Right. Well, that's amazing. And I love how you follow through because it's important. It's important to follow through in terms of helping the organizations know what to do because then they've got this information, but so big deal. I've got a D over here, an I over here, a C over here. What the heck does that, great. Now you know you, but how do I, as a leader, employ all of that? And what does that mean to me as a leader? Is that what you also do?
Yes. So it's very important to be able to establish a baseline, knowing where did you start? And I usually give a series of questions to know, do you know what DISC is? Have you ever done it before? So that way you get an understanding of where everyone is. Ground baseline 0, your first data point. Then you go to your next data point is now we've done the training and let's go after training. Then first month, after the first month, do another assessment. How's it going? Oh, do you still need me to come in? And we do another training. I'll also send in emails because as we know, it does not take overnight for change.
Exactly.
It usually takes about 3 months. So after that first month, that's where we go and assess. When I work with individual that's hired me, we'll go through another training. Then after 2 months, it will be more coaching sessions with that individual, how to make that person a better, effective leader, what changes have been made, or maybe there's something that didn't have to be changed. But most importantly, when it comes to coaching, I don't always say what you should do. Coaching is more of asking questions and making that leader decide what they should do because they're capable.
Right.
And then by the third month, it's where you should start seeing or hearing, are you using the language DISC? When you talk with clients, is it a possible DISC or maybe there's a secondary? If you're stressed, because when you're stressed, there is a dominant that comes out, and that's usually within the graph that I give an assessment, and we'll talk about that. Or during your one-on-ones with your team, if you have one-on-ones, are they using that language DIS and C? How are they feeling about it? Are they possibly implementing it at home? You can. So not only will DISC be used in the workplace, once you understand it, it can also be used for personal reasons.
Cool. Oh my gosh, lots of information. And once again, to my listeners and my watchers, remember that her freebie is about taking the test. And I would just take it just to find out what you are. I mean, make sure that you click the link that I'm going to drop. If you're watching me on the Coach Marti Angel YouTube channel, you're going to find it down in the description. Remember to subscribe and hit that bell so that you always know when I am going live. And if you're listening to wherever you listen to your favorite podcast, make sure you check the show notes. Her link will be there. Oh, Tammy, more and more. I could sit here and talk to you, more and more and more. But unfortunately, I try to keep it at drive time. So I am probably going to have you back on after I take the DISC exam, right? And wouldn't it be fun if I took the DISC exam and then we discussed it on a podcast so people could see actually how you do it, and then what comes of it, and where do we go from here? That would be awesome.
Oh, I would love to do that. And Marti, just for you, I would send you a link just for you to do it. And going through that debrief session, it's very enlightening, and I think it would be great for your viewers just to be able to hear how spot on the results are just from a 24 question through a DISC assessment, and also going through what the graphs look like.
Yeah, because some people are like, no, I don't like to take it. They're so long, but 24 questions doesn't take very long, so that's good. Yeah, let's keep in touch and let's do it. And yeah, that'll be fun. You send me what you want, and then we'll schedule, a debrief about it. And this is amazing. I am so excited. Thank you so much for being on the
Oh,
show, the Mujer de Éxito.
Marty,
You are
thank
the
you.
epitome of the best guest.
Yay!
Thank you.
I
Thank you.
thrive to be the best that I can at anything.
And my
So
friend,
thank you.
you have it. So, everybody, thank you so much for listening. And as always, I always say, remember, find a community that's going to support you. If you are willing to join my community, make sure you reach out. You'll find the link in the description below and in the show notes. I would love to have you join the community. We get guest speakers like Tammy and, people that are going to support you, challenge you, empower you, and be passionate for you, because sometimes we need somebody else to be passionate for us. So
Yes.
if you're looking for a community, join the Rock Your Biz Academy community. It is amazing. Tammy, as we say in Spanish, muchas gracias in English. Thank you so much. It has been an amazing show. Thank you. Thank you
Thank
to all of my
you.
listeners. Thank you. Thank you.